All right, I see the live icon. We are live with the Juju Show. Everyone, welcome as we talk about the latest and what's going on in the Juju engineering and ecosystem community. And so we have a lovely gathering of guests today. I'm going to go around and do some introductions. I'm Rick Harding. I'm with Juju Engineering and here to help walk us through our list of stuff today. Why don't we start at the end? Brett, Mr. Muted, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm Brett Dolachek. I'm the director of Juju Engineering, and I have come to watch to see how all my products are coming along.
Great. So the boss is here to keep an eye on us. We're in trouble now. Watch out. All right, James. It's not your boss. James can act up. Oh, no audio. Skipping James while he figures out his audio. He's not muted in Hangout in the Hangout, but on his system somewhere. George.
I'm George Castro. I'm working on Kubernetes and Juju now, but coming back here to see how things are going. Keep an eye on Rick. So really looking forward to this new format. We're going to try to liven it up. We've got a ton of stuff to bring you guys today, so it's going to be sweet.
Yep. Awesome. Marco.
Hey, Marco Ceppi. I'm a Juju charmer.
All right. Matt, keep it simple.
Yep. My name is Matt Bruzek. I'm a Juju charmer working on Kubernetes. That's all.
Awesome. Kubernetes is good stuff. All right, James, we're going to take two.
James Beedy here, Devops engineer from Creative Drive.
Awesome. And well, thanks. We got someone from the community jumping in. I appreciate it because I added you to the agenda based on your email to the thread, the dev list. So I don't have to talk about it now. I can just defer to the man. So first time running through this, our goal is going to be to try to recap some of the cool stuff going on, conversations going on in the community this week, to do a little bit of behind the scenes on what's coming up and we're planning as far as Juju itself, go through events and upcoming things to watch out for in the community, and then just general feedback and other kind of news and things to talk about. So the first thing I wanted to start off with was the kind of interesting things that we've seen, conversations in the community over the last couple of weeks. So I kind of went through the mailing list and we had a couple of interesting conversations going on. One of which I think is really interesting. With the release of Juju 2, we have controllers that have many models and many users. And in production, we've seen some fun where people are really pushing those and some interesting cases where controllers are getting stormed a bit. There's some cases that can cause all the agents on all the units to decide to, to reset at the same time and all storm the controller and bring it to its knees a little bit. The good news is that the engineering team's been working on that and has some fixes in the 2.02 release, which is in proposed and should be coming out of proposed here shortly this week. And the 2.1 upcoming release, which is in the 2.1 beta 1 is out from before the Thanksgiving break, and 2.1 beta 2 should be coming out this week. So if you're experiencing any of that, feel free, keep an eye out for when these things hit the archives and, get your controllers upgraded. There's some good improvements coming down the pipe. And if you do hit any issues, make sure to reach out to us. What's interesting is some of these are triggered by just production scenarios. In my case, I had enough of this. My machine, the disk hit a thrash for a bit that caused things to back up. So the situations here can be varied, and so we're really looking out for things that could impact kind of controller stability. So if you have any of those, make sure to file a bug, jump in the IRC channel, reach out to us, and we can get all those knocked away and make those controllers better, more stable for everyone. Cool. Any feedback? I know, James, you hit some of this. We were working through some of this the other day. Anyone else, any additional notes there?
Yeah, so, moving forward, I just thought I should hook up a pretty beefy controller machine. So I was able to move the only thing that needed to persist, which were the Redis instances. I just kind of killed the Juju agent on those and was able to tear down that controller and reprovision it to an M4 2XL. Yeah. And so I'm thinking that should set me up for at least
a while.
A little bit.
It should be good. Yeah. It is an interesting thing to bring up. Just to point out, we should grab a link to the docs at some point on this. Is that when you bootstrap, you can actually provide constraints to the controller, just like you can any of the other applications you deploy, because different things need different sizes. Juju ships with a default that it would like for those controllers, but that's meant, it's not going to be a one size fits all, right? If you're going to run a controller in production with a lot of users and models and such, you'll want to beef up your controller. I know in production and canonical, when we have some controllers, we beef up the size of those with more memory and such. So what's a good exercise that we're currently looking at trying to figure out is what are the recommendation guidelines? You know, where should we recommend folks upgrade their controller sizes, and you know, what's kind of the inflection points to that. So as we get more real production usage of 2 out there, we'll have more data to pull from on that. But that is a key thing to note. If you plan on beating up a controller for a bit, make sure you use those constraints and get yourself a bigger controller out of the box for sure.
Yeah,
Would HA help this scenario?
So HA can definitely help in some scenarios. HA shares reads across the models. It doesn't share writes though. So it can definitely help in some situations where reads are what's really throttling on the controller. And it's always something that's worth trying out. And you know, plus we like having HA anyway, just in case something goes boom. I have had instances fall over on me once in a while in the cloud before, and so I'd hate for that to cause me too much issue. So
yeah, I'm glad you guys are looking at this, because something that wasn't clear to me is exactly, is the controller usually memory limited, or is it IO limited or CPU limited? Because if I could save money by giving Juju what it wants instead of the super mega expensive controller, then that will be awesome. So I was assuming it was always IO, but I don't know. No,
so we've hit some cases where there's a ton of connections getting reset and a lot of handshaking that can be very CPU limiting. We've also had, though, you know, there was a lot of work done on optimizing some memory usage. So, but we've also seen where memory usage can get out of whack, and if that gets capped, then you end up with a storm there where things get backed up too much. And then controllers on really, really slow disks. I mean, if you're having a lot of activity, so there's a lot of stuff going to the logs, to the Mongo database, those all eventually hit disk, and disk could be a problem depending on the type of activity. And I think what's on us is to really pull that apart and make that easy for folks to follow along and to
because it'd be nice to say, if you're over 100 nodes, you'll probably need, you know, double X large or whatever a well understood minimum system requirement is.
Be like having the controller expose a set of storage parameters by default. So you could say, I want SSDs for my MongoDB database or whatever storage cloud provider type there is as well.
Yeah, that's definitely come up as a roadmap discussion, in that you can specify storage for your applications, but you can't for your controller. And I know internally we want that, because we often stick important data like the Mongo database that Juju stores its state in. We want to store that on a S3 file system, so that, or not S3, what do we use? Ceph, so that it's nice and triple replicated and everything. But that's not currently possible. So it's definitely something for the roadmap.
That's great. Don't forget about bootstrap network constraints, man.
It's on the list too.
Better be.
I understand. No, trust me, we've talked about it. So the next one, and it kind of relates to this a little bit. One of the engineers from the team, Andrew, emailed the dev list about his Juju-introspection-proxy. Basically, it's a charm. And so in order to figure this out about controller sizes and figure out what's causing the storming and all that, we need to be able to get metrics out of the controller and the agents to understand what's all the activity, what's busy, what's causing some of the storms and such. And so he's got some charms that help allow him to introspect the agents that are running on all of the machines in the models, as well as, I think, the controller itself. And we're working to add some Prometheus-based instrumentation in, where we're sending Prometheus-style, format data out, so that we can actually watch these things in real time and get an idea of what's going on. So there's an interesting thread. I'll have a link in the show notes here for the thread to go check that out if you're interested in that level of introspection about things. The more we can make this easy to use and make it standardized and such, the easier. What'll be nice will be we can ask users to help provide that data, right? I mean, we have all these users out there that are running, and there's a massive information out there that would be great for us to kind of be able to capture and pull back whenever there's a problem helping someone on IRC and such. So it's some really interesting work, and I think Andrew's right on doing some great stuff there, and it's worth kind of highlighting and making sure folks are aware of. Next up, interesting thread just kicked off recently here with Barbican and Keystone without OpenStack. Why would you want to do that, James?
Well, I hate to say it, but it's just so much easier to administrate than other secrets management and archival platforms. And I already had a slight familiarity with administrating Keystone, and it all kind of clicked at the same time. I was like, hey, I could use this really flat API that I can just include in the wheelhouse of my layer, and it'll give me access to getting the things that I need out of Barbican. And yeah, it actually just, I deployed it on LexD a few times with reaching out to using charmed applications that were also deployed in LexD to reach out to the other LexD machines. And then I basically hit a bunch of complications trying to take it past LexD. I think this has to do with the way the OpenStack, the way the Keystone API and other OpenStack APIs have to have either their IP address or their host name as their registered endpoint. And this is like kind of hard to do when you are needing to communicate with public endpoints and we're registering private IPs basically. I don't know if that makes sense.
A little bit there. So this is when you're trying to use it to other resources. They think they're the internal IP address, but you want the external folks to leverage the resource with the external address?
Yeah. So unlike normal natting, you can't just you can't just register the OpenStack service endpoints as the instance IP and then make requests to it using the public IP that's being natted to the instance.
Can you though? Is this something that could you proxy these? Could you stick an HA proxy in front of a Keystone API endpoint? Does that work? I've never thought to try that, to be honest. And then it would be kind of mapped into an internal address.
Sure that Keystone and all the OpenStack charms have HA proxy built in as a part of the HA cluster stuff.
And it's just the default. It's the default front end for the OpenStack API service endpoints.
Yeah, this comes down to the VIP stuff, like assigning virtual IP addresses and floating IP addresses appropriately so that stacks are addressable outside. This is something that I think as the networking portion grows will be a lot easier to say, I want to bind my public API access on these networks and my private on these, and then that way there's a better way to assemble like intercommunication amongst the components, like Keystone and Percona DB all happens in backland channels. But like in order to get to Barbican, the secrets, and in order to get to like Keystone and Horizon, they need to be on a public addressable IP address, either a floating IP or something, or an elastic IP or something else. I think it's probably configuration. I mean, it's probably something you can do, James.
So what I had to do was set the OS host name, OS admin internal, and public host name configs to the public IP address of the instance. And so this forced the OpenStack services to get their endpoints registered as their public IP instead of their private IP, and then getting natted to. And then when the OpenStack services try to actually use the IP that's in the request, they have no idea what's going on because they have a different IP registered. So what I had to do to get those deployed basically was pre-deploy the Xenial machines and then plug those IPs into the charm config for Keystone and Barbican. And those configs don't exist in the Barbican charm, so I just had to add them. Okay. Another thing is the Barbican charm fills in like the bind host and the host URI parameters in the Barbican conf from what I think is like underlying layers. Underlying OpenStack layer possibly is feeding it that information, and it's not really like, I basically just had to manually override those configs in the template and then deploy the charm with the actual Keystone IP in the template.
And this is part of pulling it out of the rest of the OpenStack, in that there's some certain config you want when you're using it without OpenStack that
this particularly just has to do with deploying it on AWS and the way that the service endpoints get created with the private and public IPs. So it was a slight hack, and yeah, Marco, I don't know if you want me to explain that to the list quite yet.
I'm super interested in it. We've been talking about Kubernetes for a while. Has had an experimental backend for Keystone for user authentication. I'd love to reuse those for like Keystone and Barbican and Horizon for management of like users inside of Kubernetes, since there's really not a good solution for it today that's open source. But I'm super interested in what you had to do to get it running. I think the OpenStack charmers would be good about incorporating those changes, distilling them professionally into the charms and getting them updated, because we test most OpenStacks on private networks, on bare metal and stuff. Not many people run OpenStack clouds on top of existing clouds. So I imagine there's some tomfoolery going on behind there, some assumptions being made that aren't necessarily accurate in a public cloud world.
But I really like the idea, though, because Keystone's so pluggable. Like, you could totally use Keystone then to be the front end of your LDAP company user base to then tie into your Kubernetes infrastructure. Like, this is heading down a really cool and exciting path of reuse here, that it's kind of cool to see the charms that were built for one use case. I want an OpenStack, and finding ways of really expanding anything that might want that kind of user identity. And you've got these great charms that the teams put together that sound like are 90% there. You know, there's a 10% tweak you need.
Even just reusing the layers that we did, right? I mean, put in the Kubernetes bundle, you know, not to discount that guy's work, only took 2 months, right? Can you imagine if they would have had to start from scratch? Holy smokes, right?
Well, anyways, it's a really good discussion on the list. Please jump in and join in, and we'd love to hear your stories of ways you've used charms, maybe how they weren't designed to but solved other problems. I think some of the flexibility there is really exciting, and it's stuff that gets me geeked up. So, all right, so that's kind of the interesting news from out in the community for this week. Next up, I kind of wanted to just publicly talk about the Juju release schedule, and because we changed it yesterday, let me update my little note here. So as we know, we've got 2.0.2 within proposed. We were doing some testing on that, and so that's all passed through, and I expect that to get proposed sometime this week. So look for that. It has some important, again, memory and storm handling work in there. So it's a good release to get upgraded to. And as far as 2.1, our next kind of feature release, right now we're looking to get the beta 2 out this week. And we're looking to have an RC the week of December 16th, and the lovely holidays throwing a wrench in. How do we handle that? We don't want to cut a release and then everyone goes away on vacation for their Christmas holidays after that. So we're going to go ahead and have an RC the December 16th, and then look to come back that first week of January and see if anyone played with it over the Christmas break and file any bugs and any blocking issues that we should be aware of, and then get that release the first week in January. So in there, some cool stuff, and I think I'll save that for maybe our next show. I'll kind of go through some of the what to look forward to in 2.1, but there's definitely some, model migrations is going to come out of being a beta feature in 2.1, which has got me really excited, and some other usability improvements, making add cloud an actual interactive command. No more pre-propose your YAML in the certain format with the right keys in order to be accepted. Much more of a add my OpenStack, sir, and it will say yes, sir, and walk you through the steps and everything. So there's some good stuff to be had in there. All right, eco news. George, you want to run through these items?
Yeah, let me run through the Charmer Summit first. So the Juju Charmer Summit is happening again in Ghent as part of Cfgmgmntcamp. CFP closed for that last week. Thanks for everyone who submitted. Of course, we'll have the flexibility there to adjust the schedule as needed. The event is actually 68 days from now, so a lot, even though we have the holidays in between now and then. Once we get back from the new year, remember, February 6th will creep up pretty quickly. You can get all of this information on our Summit site, which is summit.juju.solutions. I will go ahead and switch that over from call for proposals to actual registration here, definitely before the holidays. I'll try to do that this week, actually, so you can start to register and things like that. As always, if you're doing anything cool with Juju, Canonical itself has a limited amount of sponsorships available. If you're doing something cool and contributing back to the community, then we'll be more than happy to do our best to get you there. Other than that, what's next? What's next in the eco? Let me list. New Kubernetes charms were released this week. Marco and Matt, you guys want to walk us through those? I believe Chuck posted the notes to the mailing list, but you want to give us a quick TLDR on what's going on with the Kubernetes charms?
Matt? Skillful punt.
Delegation, the best form of management.
Yes.
It looks like it's a no because he's not unmuting himself.
Yeah.
Just give me a second. I'll pull up the note. I wasn't prepared to talk here.
Yeah, way to be ready. Way to be ready. All right, we'll come back to you.
All right, first show. We'll come right. We'll be a little more
Why don't you do the Charm Developer Program updates, Marco, while...
Yeah, sure. So we've got quite a few people signed up for the Charm Developer Program. It's a program that we keep evolving and growing over time. A lot of people have joined after recent Charm schools that we provided at ODS and at Big Data ApacheCon Europe. Because of this growth in the people in the Charm Developer Program, we've seen quite a few interesting charms come out of this. People were hitting some resource contention issues, couldn't bootstrap a controller, couldn't deploy a certain number of machines, kept getting errors. We've resolved the majority of these. We fixed the problem where security groups were leaking, so you can't create more security groups despite having quite a lot of instances left available. And then we've also helped bump up the limits on each of the regions and added US East 2 to the list of regions you can deploy to for your account. So those are the updates we've made recently to the Charm Developer Program. I recommend anyone who hasn't signed up, developer.juju.solutions. If you're interested in writing a charm, need some cloud runtime, we'll give you instances for up to 48 hours, and then we just kind of kill them off silently. So it's just a nice playground for you to get ready, mash some code into, get some cloud runtime, try and get things to spin.
Right. And if that wasn't obvious to you, since you didn't explain it till the very end, basically, if you're writing charms, and those are under a free open source license, we'll be happy to give you Amazon creds so that you can actually practice developing on like a real thing instead of, 1 or 2 instances on your laptop. Also, you mentioned US East 2. A big fan of US East 2 with Juju. I love everything about it. Maybe because I live in the Midwest, but I'm finding it way more responsive.
Is it because
way more responsive than US East 1?
You're in Michigan and this new region is in Ohio. I don't know how east that is, but they're calling it east, so we'll take it.
So I'll tell you what, I live next to US East 1, and US East 2 is fast because it doesn't yet suffer from noisy neighbor syndrome.
Right.
You're looking for a nice,
it's still new and shiny, so everybody get in there. Get in there before.
Yeah, everyone in US East 1, go to US East 2. It's much less crowded. Get out of my region.
No. Wait, I like the other way around. And one note to just so everyone, so this is available as a region you can bootstrap to. And if you want to change this, make sure to look at in your Juju data directory, in your clouds.yaml, you can actually change the default region that you use on that cloud. So I, for instance, changed my default AWS region. Whenever I bootstrap AWS, it goes right to my US East 2 region, so I don't have to worry about it, and it's less typing for me to do whenever I bootstrap and play with stuff. And I should probably have been more prepared for this. I've got not unprepared syndrome here. Let's see.
I've got a tip while you're looking that up. What I do, what I figured out is I started setting the environment, so Juju could do both the YAML files, but it will also look in your environment variables for all your creds before you auto-load credentials. The nice thing is I moved them actually out of my Juju config and left my Juju configs all empty because I'm using Snap. So if I ever change or upgrade, there's like no place for me to do that. So what I do is I set all the environment variables, and now I can use either Snap Juju or normal Juju via Debs, depending on, and I don't have to reconfigure Juju every time because it's smart enough to know, AWS_default region equals US East 2 is set. That's just a tip for you. And if you're doing multiple clouds and multiple tools, I'm finding that having all the tools have their own configs, but they also all respect one, the kind of default where AWS and Azure and everything expects those things. So I've just found that's a time saver for me. That's all I got there.
All right, I dug up the release notes, so I'm prepared to talk to that now.
All righty. Let them loose.
For Kubernetes, we've released last week. We released updates to almost all the charms, and there's little things here and there that we did. We've got snapshot and restore instructions for etcd. So as you know, etcd is the key value store. It's the distributed key value store for Kubernetes, and we've got an action now that you can snapshot or AKA back your etcd up, and then restore it from a backup if you so choose. That's really important for upgrading or moving Kubernetes deployments around. That would be really neat. So give that a shot and let us know how that goes. We've done some other cosmetic things to etcd that's really not worth mentioning here, but the we also have storage for etcd, so you can use cloud provider storage, well, persistent disk in event of disaster recovery. So anyways, that's good stuff. We've updated the resources to Kubernetes version 1.4.5. Kubernetes is releasing 1.5 very soon, but we have yet to see that, and we will be testing with that and updating the resources as soon as possible. Some of the other things, we've fixed some errors, some bugs. We got some feedback from some actual users of our stuff that wanted some features, so we iterated quickly on those. We've got some. We're now adding labels to our workers, so we can you can query them much like any other Kubernetes primitives, and use those when you're, for instance, rolling updates. So if you label a couple of workers with A and then the rest of the workers with B, you can update the A workers and then update the B workers separately. So those are things we've added based on feedback from our community using the Kubernetes charms. And what else do we have?
I have some questions for you, Matt.
Yes.
That will be more general. So this is really the first time that we've had a meeting like this where we're talking about Kubernetes in the same way that we have OpenStack and stuff. So I'm just going to ask you the basic questions before we get too knee deep into individual bugs and stuff. How far behind are these charms from upstream? Now, we know upstream Kubernetes releases every 3 months. Like, how do you kind of just explain to me like what the plan is as far as, like, if I were to use these charms, how do I roll life cycle wise, I guess? Like, give me more of a generic.
Okay. All right. Well, we quickly iterate on these charms in our own charm store. So if you can deploy the bundles, there's 2 general bundles: the canonical distribution of Kubernetes that has monitoring and logging and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have the Kubernetes core bundle, and we keep these up to date. We're on a release cycle of every 2 weeks. We're trying to keep up with the with the progress of the Kubernetes project. The Kubernetes project is huge, and it's being iterated on very fastly. They have a 3-month release process, so that 1.4 came out approximately 3 months ago. They're just about to drop 1.5. 1.6 will again be in 3 months. So it's a fast-moving project we're trying to keep up with, and trying to keep adding features and adding things as they come out. So we try to keep a 2-week release process if at all possible. But with the holiday and things, I don't know we're going to be able to keep on that. Everything remaining the same. But we do have. We quickly iterate on the bugs that are filed, but we keep all the charms in the charm store up to date, and the resource, which is the version of Kubernetes that we're using, we keep that as close to master, or as close to the master branch as possible. So
okay, so basically,
so basically what you get, then to summarize, you've got a Kubernetes cluster that you can deploy in HA scale, and is the latest stable version of Kubernetes. We lag at most a couple days behind each point release. 1.5 is coming up. We're planning on having 1.5.0 supported day of launch, if not shortly after that. So from a solution, what you get is a cross-cloud, bare metal, VMware, OpenStack, public cloud, scalable, robust, operations distilled, ready to roll. 2 nodes needed to start, scale it up as high as you want. Kubernetes cluster, it's the latest stable, secure, TLS encrypted. I mean, throw in some more buzzwords. It's everything you'd expect from a Kubernetes cluster and more.
awesome. And as always, the fellows will be posting the release notes on the Juju list. So around 2 weeks, modulo, holidays and stuff. That sounds really awesome. And if you're watching this video on the YouTube channel, I've started a video series called Kubernetes the Easy Way. I've gone through the initial installation, and some of the questions I kind of rhetorically asked Matt will be covering in separate videos. So I'll cover how to do an upgrade, how to follow tip of trunk instead. Oh no, something broke. How do I roll back? We'll be covering all those in a separate set of videos. So kind of consider this the initial warning that, hey, we have Kubernetes charms now. We'll be iterating those over time. Sweet. Anything else you'd like to add, Matt, before we move on?
I would. I've got some future items that weren't in the release notes that we've been iterating on in the last week here. Recently, one of our colleagues has gotten the Kubernetes working on LexD. That was a very big win for us. We've got that. So if you install Conjure Up, you can conjure up Kubernetes on LexD, and that's on your own system. That was a really good one that we've added to the bag of tricks. That was an amazing work by Adam Stokes. So thanks for that. We've got some right now in Kubernetes. CNI is in beta, and we're tracking that. So we're working on getting CNI to replace our SDN, our software-defined network. So that's coming up in Kubernetes very soon. And we're working on getting our test results up to the main Kubernetes repository, which they call the Gubernator. So we're putting our test results up there, and we're running daily builds on the cloud, on the different clouds, and getting those results up so that everybody can watch those. We're running the Kubernetes end-to-end tests, and we're going to be publishing the results here very soon. The pull request has not landed to my knowledge, and so we're just working on that with the upstream Google folks for getting that in. So those are the things coming up to watch out for. And if any have any questions, just contact me. I usually hang out in Pound Juju and be happy to help. So
also find us in the upstream Slack channels, SIG Cluster Lifecycle and SIG Cluster Ops. And that, Mr. Rick Harding, wraps up the ecosystem update.
Woo! A lot going on. It's a lot of fun to see. Awesome. So I think we're going to wrap up this first show with kind of a lightning round of community questions. And I've got a list here. This list is actually from Sandor. So I'm going to kind of blow through these in the sense of some quick answers. And folks, feel free to jump in if you've got something to add or whatnot. But we'll try to get wrapped up here on this. So number one, any chance of publishing something like a roadmap for Juju? And he compares to an Ansible one. To which my answer is, yeah, there's a chance of that. We do, just so everyone's got clear, we sit down and do a 6-month roadmap with the Ubuntu release cycle. Every 6 months, we all get together and set up a roadmap. I think this is a little bit, I feel like there's a little bit of open source code. I don't want to open source my code because you'll see how it is, how bad it is. I don't think I've ever had a roadmap that we ever successfully got, everything in the right way. There tends to be something that adapts and moves throughout a cycle, which makes it something scary to publish and put out in the public on Stone. But I think this is one of those, Rick, suck it up. It's a good thing for the community. We should go through and have that published. So I will see what I can do about that one.
I think instead of calling it a roadmap, you should call it a proposed set of features we're probably going to get in for the next thing. Don't hold your breath. Here's what we're trying to work on now. All right.
It's a naming thing. Naming is hard. There you go. We'll find the right name for it. But it's a totally legit question. And as you can see here, we're talking about things that are coming and that we're working on and all that. It's not like we're hiding the stuff in a box somewhere in the corner. All right.
6 to 8 weeks. Got it.
Yeah. Same with proper release notes for Juju releases. Scraping for bugs is not so fun, and I agree on that. So my first instinct when I saw this was, hey, we got a documentation page for that. We have a reference page for the release notes that we made sure we cleaned up and gardened for the 2.0 release. However, I now officially hang my head in shame because while we've done release notes emails, those emails have not transcribed themselves over to this page in the documentation. So I have an action item based on this question to go and get that updated. So it's totally legit question, and my apologies, and I will get that one corrected.
And I'll paste a link of where that will be in the notes.
Sure. Yep, I got it in there on the notes.
Oh, it is.
Right.
Oh,
I got you, man. I'm
just hanging your head in shame. You're so fast.
I know, exactly. All right. Next question. Which MAAS versions are supported by Juju? All of them. No, not all of them. But we were very careful to support 1.9, 2.0, and 2.1. And we test across those MAASs. So you should be able to use Juju 2 on any of those MAASs. Now, what you will find is different features, will be supported based on what's in the MAAS, what's available there. But all three are what we develop, test, and QA against. So you should be in good shape with any of those.
I have a question before you move on. Is there any correlation other than coincidence of them using the same numbers between the MAAS release version and the Juju release version?
Well, what you'll see is that when we released Xenial, there was a big push to kind of to feel free to get us set up for that next LTS cycle with what we were really wanted to shine across our product portfolio, right? So you'll notice LexD went to 2.0, MAAS went to 2.0, Juju went to 2.0. And yes, we wanted to make sure that all those 2.0s work together, but it's not limited to, right? I guess that's the thing that might not be clear, is that we still support MAAS 1.9 because that's in a previous LTS, and we know customers and folks are using that, and
right.
So we want to make sure Juju is available for folks to use.
Right, but is there a general coordination? Like if I have Juju say 2.1.
No, after
is
the
that
2.
something in my head that I should be? I should have MAAS 2.1.
No, not at all, not at all.
Okay, that's what I wanted to.
Totally different development streams. We just all happen to want to really iterate that next level at the LTS cycle, but
okay,
we're doing 2.1 coming up. That's MAAS has already got their 2.1, so there's no correlation. You don't have to be on the same dots of everything, not at all.
Okay, I just wanted to clear that up because it's kind of confusing when you add LexD and a bunch of other stuff to the mix.
All right. Let's see. Better search queries in the Charm store. It would be great to search/display different development channels and etc. So this is one of these interesting issues. We're working closely with the Snap team to kind of provide a common model for things. And this stuff runs in your production infra. People deploy this behind their company firewalls and such. And because of that, we want to be very careful with what we kind of show and what people believe is trusted and not. So we've taken a very opinionated view that when you default search for things, you're going to get a certain subset that is kind of the safer world. There's the whole internet out there, but we garden that and have that kind of subset that we talk about. What happened in the Snap community is there's actually a community-run website which does that, which uses the APIs, and the APIs are available to look at what's the latest in the development channel and all that. That's how the CLI and things work, right? There's APIs on the services. We just take an opinionated product view, and this is a great place, I feel like, for the community to kind of step up and have something that they want to see by making some easier tools to participate in the community, what's in development, what's not yet production, and all that. I think to an end user, we very much want folks focused on what's clear, no confusion, what should they use in their production infrastructure behind the company firewall. And I think when you're in the development side, you're more freewheeling. You're a little bit more to play with things that may break or may be in flight and in development and all that. So, I don't think we have a plan to change our view on that from an end user perspective, but I think we'd love to help have bugs filed against our APIs on ways we can make it easier for folks to get at that information without making it something that end users would go and rely on. Clear explanation of what the different charmer groups are. Are they affiliated with Canonical or not? Are the charms maintained? And I want to tie this to the last question. A bit more focus on the bugs.launchpad.net/charms would be great. One of the big things we did with charms was to go, you know what? The right way for charms and these ecosystems to go and grow and thrive is for that to be the upstream community. They're community run. There's a community that cares a lot about the Kubernetes charms. There's a community that cares a lot about the OpenStack charms. We move those OpenStack charms. They're upstream in the OpenStack project, run through their development workflow and process, going through Garrett and everything. So I really think that our answer to this is we don't have a clear explanation other than, that's the community that's there. Bugs and fixing those bugs and cooperating with that community is up to however that community operates, wherever they go, be it OpenStack, Garrett, their infrastructure, or Launchpad, or some GitHub community, or whatever. So for us, we participate in them. Yes, Canonical employees participate in the OpenStack charms in that community, but you go to that community to participate. You know what I mean? And so I think my answer is probably unsatisfactory in that, no, there's not a better explanation, because it really is about which charm are you looking at, which community are you trying to play with, and how does that community operate?
So I want to add on to that too. Something we've been kicking around for a while, and with this new move, before the process was, if you're not familiar, you submitted your charm for review by a charmer, and then the ownership of that charm basically shifted. You no longer own the code process for that. It was shifted under a different group of people. And it wasn't very clear who does bug triaging, how's the maintainer get involved, and how does the maintainer update their code when anyone can update their code out of band. So this change where now people and groups of people maintain charms, and they own the code for it, they own the bug process for it, they own the entire quality story for that charm. We just do cursory reviews and testing to make sure that those are still of a quality that we assert. As a result of the shift, we realized that a lot of charms in the store today are not maintained. Well, not a lot, but a good chunk of them are not maintained. So after this call, I'm going to follow up with a mail to the list, which suggests that we actually go through the unpromulgation, the removal of the approved charm store namespace for a large portion of charms which have not been updated in well over a year's time, have not done any bug triaging, and have not yet moved to their own ownership groups. And that'll help, I think, clear up a lot of questions and concerns about who owns this charm, what are they doing with it, and what's the state of quality and health for it. This is kind of a process. After 6 years or so, we've gotten a lot of different varying chunks and qualities of code into the store, and it's time for us to kind of do a quick refresh and make sure that things that are in the store are actually things that are being cared for by people and not necessarily there because they were cared for at one time and long since gone. So that's an email I have following up literally after this call. So watching the video, you'll see it. I'll make sure there's a link in the description for the discussion there. But I have a list of charms and a list of people who are no longer maintaining charms. We need to figure out if we want new people to maintain them or if we want to remove them from the store.
Thanks, Marco. Yeah, it's a big question. The best thing we can do is to help people work the way they like to work and build their own communities. We found that the stronger charms come when the communities around those are really enabled, and so that's our focus. And so hopefully, that's helpful and useful to everyone out there. And so we appreciate comments and feedback on the process and ways we can make that better. So let us know. And that is the lightning round of questions today.
And Antonio wanted to crash the party.
What a surprise!
Yes, he was like, I want to. Yeah, he was like, I want to hang out with you guys so bad.
Antonio, welcome to the party. How are you doing?
Hello.
And another guy, Coder Europe, wants to join us from the IRC as well.
Awesome.
On the inner tube, they said there was a great party over here, so I wanted to come crash.
You're over at AWS reInvent, right?
Yes, we're at AWS reInvent at the moment.
How's that going?
Today is the day where Amazon makes some interesting announcements, so we'll see what they have in store up their sleeve.
I really enjoyed that announcement about having a centralized place for a company, an organization to have all their AWS creds under one. I needed that like 3 years ago. I'm glad they finally got around to it, but that's neither here nor there.
We'll see what they announce. There's also expected they also have a count of 32,000 people here, and it feels like there is.
32,000. Geez, I'm trying to think. The biggest thing I went to is ODS, and I don't think that was anywhere near that.
Yeah, it's pretty crowded. So
wow.
Yep.
And you left that party to come hang out with us. So what do you got for us? What do you got for us today, Mr. Rosales?
Yeah, there's two things I wanted to at least make folks aware of that we're working on and looking to get feedback on, and there's some emails already on the Juju list about it. There'll be some other mails go out today or tomorrow about it to follow up on some of the things that we'll talk about here. So just in general, two really cool things folks to take a look at is you've seen the email from Ben on the Matrix. So Matrix is the way to be able to do operational testing. So testing if my bundle and the charm and the reference bundle is working as it's designed to be able to do, and giving us feedback on the Jujuisms. Does the Juju, can you add unit or remove unit, and do all those things that we need to do in the operation of that. So that's continuing under development. It's out there on Ben's link, which we'll provide in the email for folks to follow up on. If you want to give it a try and give us some feedback, it's all out there for folks to be using today. So that's the first part of it. The other part of it too is that we wanted to be able to take that matrix, right? That matrix that we're using as a way to be able to do charm testing as a recommended configured way, and also work on the review queue. So if folks don't know, today we kind of had a little bit of an alpha with the new review queue. So that's live today. So it's kind of a soft launch, and we're trying to make that more of a beta launch. That's review.jujucharms.com. So where everyone goes to jujucharms.com, if they prefix review dot to it, they'll see the new updated review queue. It's vastly updated. Again, in the email, we'll provide some of the features in there, but just to quickly summarize those are being able to track where you are against policy, being able to have inline diffs and track the charm as it changes. It will include testing in it, and it has disconnected from the actual charm store, disconnected from Launchpad, so you can be able to develop wherever you want. So our previous review queue was very much tied to Launchpad ingestion. This one is keyed off of the charm store, so it's a full charm push and hack wherever you want model. And then you can submit a charm store URL and be able to get a review and see the progress you're making and be able to track what you need to do against policy to have it recommended. So that's out there and live today. And the things that we also want to talk about folks today is that the other parts that we're working on and we'd like to get feedback from folks on is with Matrix and Bundle, I'm sorry, the review queue, what we want to be able to have folks do is have a recommended charm CI system. So roughly what we're creating is a charm CI system. We want to be able to give that to recommendation to folks to say, hey, if you're developing charms and you want to have a recommended CI system with Matrix and with things like Cloud Weather Report, if you've seen those, and with Bundle Tester, this is how we're setting it up. And you could repeat that same thing that we do for the review queue. You can repeat it for yourself to make sure that you have a good local test and run of it before you submit it up. Or if you just want to charm CI it your own way, you can have that at your fingertips too. So Kevin and Kosis are really head down working with Tim to be able to get the review queue automated, to be able to have a good charm CI system in it. So when someone submits a charm review, it goes back, it checks it with Matrix, with Bundle Test or CWR, it goes back and checks policy, and hopefully takes as much as the human element out of it as possible, so reviews are automated. But that also results in a charm CI system that anyone can be able to use locally to see how their charm's working and hopefully put up a CI system to have a webhook come in from GitHub, wherever it may be, for them to actually CI their system in the same way re-CI it over in the review queue. So those are two exciting work. They kind of all fold together, but they're good pieces for folks to be aware of and keep an eye on the mailing list. We'd love to get feedback from folks.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see the tools coming together to really help people put together quality charms, because I think we all appreciate those really well done, well-tested charms we can rely on when we go out to production. And the infrastructure and tooling to help make that possible is really important. Thanks for the update, Antonio.
Absolutely. So again, we really want to be able to get folks using it sooner. You know, it's very much in development, but ideas, thoughts, early testing, bugs, all those things we'd like to hear from folks.
Cool. Let's go build some stuff. All right.
Awesome. We do have one more person though. Welcome, Kira Linus. Did I say that right?
Oh yeah, it's Karen. I've been trying to get in touch with you for a while, George. I kind of go under different things, but it's triskill.im. I was the guy from Discourse a long time ago. Probably don't want to bring it up right now, but maybe we can talk about it later some stage.
Okay.
Is that right? I'm sorry, I don't want to crash your party or anything, so I'll just be in the background.
All right, cool.
Oh, okay. So you don't have any Juju questions or anything, right?
Yeah. Why don't you guys catch up after the after we wrap up the show here?
Okay.
Yeah, I'll log on. Well, I'll stay on, but I'll keep the microphone off.
All right, appreciate it. All right, so that wraps up the show. I just want to remind everyone, we're going to repeat this every 2 weeks. So look for 2 weeks from now to have another one of these. Now, I do plan on allowing some shifting in the hours of when in the day it's run, because we want to try to get some folks in to demo some things. And a lot of our teams are in, Australia, New Zealand, and other parts of the world where we might have to shift around to help make it available for them to jump in and show off some awesome things that they've got in flight. I believe for the next one, I've had some volunteers to demonstrate a live a model migration from one controller to another. So look forward to a demo of that in 2 weeks' time. If you have any material topics or things you want to bring up, please shoot us a message on IRC, shoot me an email, or ping us however you'd like, and we will definitely put a comment in this episode, and we'll watch those for things to bring up in the next one. So with that, thanks everyone for coming and joining and participating today. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you all in 2 weeks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for hosting.
Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, George.